15th of February. I'd especially like to welcome Mr. Tim Chilvers and Mr. Chris Goyne from Anderson Group, who will provide a presentation for us, I hope, this evening. So I welcome you to make that presentation.
Well, good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors, and if we wouldn't mind also welcoming Sam Lomas, who's my esteemed colleague, and he's going to take us through the listed buildings planning application that's due to be submitted. So that's what's to come. If I can share my screen with you, we'll get going. I'm hoping technology is not going to fail. I need the host to enable screen sharing, if that's okay.
Yeah, that should be done, Christian, is it?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
It's loading, so you may well be able to see something now.
Yes, we can.
I'll try and go full screen. Can you see the presentation? Or is it just loading?
No.
It's loading at the moment, Chris.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Looks like.
I'll have to put 50p in the meter.
I'll just welcome the members of the public that are listening in as well this evening. Good to have them.
Doesn't seem to be playing ball. Let me just refresh. If not, I might have to hand over to Sam to share his screen.
Thank you.
In fact, Sam, do you want to do that now, if that's all right?
Yes, no problem. Okay. Need to work out how to share screen. Come on.
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Lovely. Well, I have an exclusive for you insofar that this image was produced just today and I've managed to fit it into the presentation. So it goes beyond what we're going to discuss with you this evening, and clearly shows most, basically all of the site down at Faversham Lakes. It does cut off a tiny smidgen of the car park down at the bottom and a bit of the country park at the top, but you get the gist. And so really this evening, we wanted to catch up again. Last time we sat down and presented to you was in September. A lot has happened since then, both in the real world and down at Faversham Lakes, with respect of pandemics and construction and the like. We've been an extremely fortunate industry in that the government's advice has been, keep going, keep building. So in that sense, that's exactly what we've done. Faversham's moving along very nicely. So it's on the next steps that we want to discuss with you this evening. You'll have to excuse me. I'm going to do what I like to call Chris Whitty and tell Sam to say next slide. Say next slide to Sam. So I always go through this slide with you. I won't labour the point. But in terms of our kind of planning permissions at the moment, we've got reserved matters consent for phase 1. That's 113 units. And that's the sort of development around the gatehouse on Ham Road. Our phase 2A application, you've already commented on, that's anticipated to have a decision by the end of the month. We're working with Swale Borough Council and their officers on that. And then we're now looking forward to the submission of phase 2B, which is the remaining number of units down on site, 118, and the submission of a listed buildings master plan. Next slide, please. So these pictures are relatively current. They were taken on the 25th of January, and this is just to give you an idea of where we are in terms of phase 1 of Faversham Lakes. I think I told you last September that they're selling like hotcakes, and that still remains the case. We can't build them quick enough down on site. I'm pleased to say, as I said, I think before, that the majority of buyers are from Swale District. Lots of young people moving into houses through the Help to Buy scheme, which is fantastic. And as well as that, we're obviously committed across the whole site to 30% affordable housing, so policy compliant level, and we signed up West Kent Housing Association. So 70% of the homes are now reserved or sold, but that's of those released, as I put on the presentation, because obviously we're building some that aren't yet for sale. So they will come online hopefully shortly in phase 1. Next slide, please. So I've shown this particular image before. I think it's really important as we move into phase 2B and the remaining units to show you how we sort of base ourselves when it comes to reserve matters planning applications. So we have obviously the outline consent behind us, and we work from that. And from that, we have a parameter plan that sets the kind of layout scale details around the new homes that we're providing. And for phase 2B in particular, it's reference to that green edge around phase 2 and the central square. And there are sort of slight differences in the appearance and layout there to respect effectively the local landscape. So phase 2B is effectively it's a horseshoe shape that covers the northern section of that green and yellow area. And I'll go on to the next slide to show you that in sort of specifically, but it will include our continued 30% commitment to affordable housing. There's a bit of a miscommunication about that in the last application, phase 2A, but that's all resolved now. So we will be providing those again with West Kent. So because of where we are in the process, we have got the following development layouts for you to see. So phase 2B is actually the area that's etched in white on the left-hand image. And as I say, it's that sort of horseshoe with the central core in the middle. And that will be for the remaining homes. And that's opposite where you will see the Ore windmill. If you look at it, you can sort of see that grey patch on the left-hand side there. We've got the pond sort of feature that runs all the way along that boundary as well. What I want to stress is that phase 2B is in reality a continuation of 2A and even 1 in the design, in the layout, in the materials that we're using. So in that sense, my presentation to you this evening is going to be really short because it is simply that, a continuation. We feel in consultation with neighbours, with borough councillors, even with some members of the town council, that what we're providing here is sort of respectful to the local area, and ultimately it's working because we're selling the houses and to local people at that. So phase 2B, a continuation. Next slide, please, Sam. So Sam Lomas is the lead for planning for the listed buildings cluster, and he'll take you through that now.
Okay, so following a previous presentation to the Town Council last year, we've continued to progress our development proposals for the listed buildings cluster. The master plan slide in front of us is merely to demonstrate how the current proposal sits, which is more of a refresh and update for you as opposed to substantive changes from that previously presented. The grey hatching on the plan represents existing structures, where the pink hatching identifies the new build proposals, such as the performance space, scout building, marsh house, and new meals room. Altogether, the planning application will comprise the restoration of 7 listed buildings, and with the inclusion of 4 new build spaces. The 8 Faversham Sea Scouts will benefit from a new 289 metres squared home, purpose designed through the continuation of consultation with the group. A new performance space is also proposed, which will be provided for the community, which I'm sure will provide a popular draw to the listed building cluster. Additionally, 5 residential dwellings are proposed within the existing historical buildings themselves to create a balanced use environment. The remainder of the proposed floor space across the hub is to be held under use class E. At this stage, given the current climate, use classes have been left with a degree of flexibility to ensure end user demand. The overall aim is to provide a positive environment for startup enterprises. We hope this can be a real positive to our overall scheme. It also goes without saying this proposal will be an active gateway to the country park, and therefore uses included within our proposals need to be conducive to draw people in to use this area. The planning application itself is entering its final stages of preparation, and therefore we're expecting a submission in March 2021. As you can see from this slide, I've included a CGI of the proposed scheme. As I sort of mentioned previously, this substantially hasn't changed from our previous presentation to you. It's just more of an update of, yeah, this will be an application submitted imminently.
I don't know if it's just me, Sam. None of the slides are changing.
I was literally just writing that in the chat.
All right.
There we go.
So we're still on listed buildings planning application. There we go.
Oh, there we go. There's the CGI for you. Did you see that one, or did that?
It's only just popped up, that one.
Fine, okay.
I can see it now.
My apologies. But yeah, as I've said, this was sort of included within our previous presentation to you. But yeah, hopefully next month, all being well, this will be submitted.
So in terms of next steps, obviously Sam's detailed that we're looking to bring forward the Heritage Hub. That's a huge step for Anderson in their sort of journey at Faversham Lakes. But the submission of phase 2B, which I've already discussed with you, and also the progression of the country park. So we're looking to deliver that soon. And I'm really pleased to say, with your help, we've managed to secure 420 new trees from the Woodland Trust. And I was very cheeky in asking the Town Council for a supporting letter for that, but I'm pleased to say it's been fruitful. And so we will look to make something of that, obviously plant the trees, but get Davington Primary involved. If restrictions allow, they have to be planted pretty soon after delivery, and they're being delivered mid-March. So we're playing it by ear at the moment, but we're really keen to get them involved, as you'd imagine. So they're the three main steps. That's all we have in terms of a presentation. Obviously, Tim, Sam, myself are on hand to answer any questions that you might have at this stage.
Lovely. Thank you very much. It's all very exciting. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Martin?
Thank you. If I may, what is your projected timescale for full completion on site?
Thank you, Councillor Martin. We're probably looking at around about 2.5 to 3 years from here, I would say. That's probably based on the annual completions we're forecasting at the moment.
Thank you.
I think a considerable amount of affordable we've got on, the policy compliant provision of affordable does help with that, because obviously you hand over quite big chunks of housing at one time. And I think just on that point, Chris mentioned it earlier, but just to really give you some comfort in that regard is our contract with West Kent for the whole of phase 2 is done. So you kind of got the double lock guarantee, I suppose, of obviously the outline permission, the policy requirement, and what housing officers will be feeding back to future reserve matters applications, and also our own agreement with West Kent on the provision of policy compliant affordable housing in line with the 106 agreement.
I'm pleased to hear, Chris, most comments I receive, it's going to be all Londoners that are moved down and take all these houses, and it just isn't so, is it? And I know it isn't.
Well, I can remember a comment being made, perhaps at the last presentation or the one before that. Someone was very interested to know what, where people were coming from, in effect. So I was very keen. I asked my head of sales and marketing just a couple of days ago in preparation for this. And she said that a majority of people are local. Yes. And she said that quite a few people from Sittingbourne, but also from within Faversham.
Within, I quite agree. No, that's really good. Oh. Councillor Perkin.
Oh, yeah, firstly, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate all of the communication that you guys do with the Town Council. I think it's really positive. But can I just ask a question? Just in terms of affordable housing provision, what do the numbers boil down to in terms of how many actual units are going to be up for are affordable? Is that something that you know?
It's 99 in total.
Yeah.
So of the 330, I think it's 99 in total. We've got 34 dwellings in the phase 1 area, and then the balance, so 65 across phases 2A and 2B effectively.
Thank you.
Thank you. All sounds very promising, very exciting as well for our Sea Scouts. I think they're really
they've taken a very proactive role in the design of their new building. Some of you might know him, but the leader of the Scout group is an architect by trade, so very keen to sort of put his mark on proceedings, and did. And it's just worked out really well in our new plans to give them, to sort of carve off space for them to use. And they sort of pushed on an open door, and we've been really pleased to work with them. They've actually sort of brought an element of ingenuity to proceedings, where sometimes we get sort of so focused on the whole thing. They've managed to own their space. So yeah, very exciting. We're in constant communication with them.
I'm very keen that we bring the youth on into as many projects as we can, and I think that's great if you say they've taken a part in that.
I think the other thing just to add as well is obviously the main emphasis to date has been housing, and hopefully you've seen tonight, the listed buildings are difficult. They're very, very tricky and challenging. We are trying our best to see them as an asset rather than a liability. And I think in the way we're going to look to try and phase the refurbishment of them and deliver things like the flood defence bund, we're going to try and do it in a very, very orderly way, which makes sense in terms of the movement of materials on site and the reuse of earth, for example, so we're not having excess journeys to and from site in that regard. And obviously it all feeds into the country park, which sits kind of separately, but we're very keen to open that up as a usable asset. And it's just making sure that the linkage through to that comes online in a safe and coherent way. Because obviously you can't have people walking through a live construction site, and it needs to be semi-attractive as well. So we're currently really putting a lot of focus and attention as a firm on how we do it in the best way. And the Scouts obviously feature as a focal point to what probably comes first, I think.
Councillor Martin. Yeah.
Sorry, I have to declare an interest now because you mentioned the Scouts.
Yes.
I'm chair of the District Scouts, so I don't take any notice of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, first of all. Yeah. With regards to the country park and the sort of, I think there was, back on previous presentations, there was, you was having talks with Kent Wildlife Trust and sort of relationship with how the country parks can be managed and obviously be beneficial to biodiversity, and the sort of visitor, I think it was a visitor centre or something similar. And is that something you're still looking at the moment, or is it progressed somewhere else?
It is, yeah. It's certainly something we're still continuing in dialogue with Kent Wildlife Trust as to whether it's something they want to take on. I think obviously with lockdown last year, it made things difficult for everyone to kind of have any meaningful forecast as to, will a visitor centre be something that they can even make work for themselves. So, that kind of disrupted the flow and progress we made on those discussions. No one's fault. It was just, a very, very difficult time for people to make corporate decisions for themselves. So whilst I can't sort of sit here and say, a deal with West Kent will definitely happen, the fallback or the scenario envisaged by the Section 106 agreement, which obviously binds us and covenants us to do certain things, is very clear in its expectations about what the country park needs to do, what it needs to deliver, and when that needs to be done by. And so in the absence of a Kent Wildlife Trust arrangement, it will be managed in a very, very orderly fashion and funded via the service and the rent charge that is in place now with the management company. But I think, yeah, you're absolutely right, Councillor Williams. I mean, the long-term goal would be, yes, an end managing organisation like Kent Wildlife Trust would be absolutely excellent, and we'll continue to work with them to try and make that happen.
Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant.
I think Councillor Hook has his hand up.
All right, Councillor Hook. Can't say Councillor Hook.
Maybe not.
No.
Yeah, I did have my hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, got you now.
It was just a quick matter. I've enjoyed listening to the presentation a lot, but I don't have a question. But I just need to declare same interest as Trevor Martin because I'm president of Faversham Scouts.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. The performance space sounds interesting. What exactly is the performance space going to accommodate?
Who wants that one?
Sam, do you want to go?
I mean, I think it's kind of open to end users. Who would we identify as someone to sort of occupy that space? But I think it's quite an exciting thing for the local community and a nice that could be utilised by them. But I guess we would just hope that someone would.
Yeah. Open air Shakespeare, maybe, like we have at Mount Ephraim. And
absolutely. I mean, I must confess, as a firm, we took our, a lot of us have links to Suffolk, and there's a great asset up there called Snake Malting. Some of you may have been there, I don't know. But it's a fabulous sort of cluster of old listed buildings. It's got a pub, it's got retail uses, it's got artisan office space. It really sort of has the vibe that we are looking to bring here, and that's got a performance space, and it's incredibly successful. And so I think that was kind of the long-term vision of doing something slightly different. The refurbishment of the listed buildings is not contingent on it, so there's nothing to be lost by that not coming forward, but it just provides the opportunity for an asset and something a little bit different to come forward here, bearing in mind the general growth that's going on in and around Faversham at the moment.
Great. Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, just on that, I was quite interested to hear about the kind of progression of the listed buildings, because I think it's really cool to actually look at the kind of keeping with the original kind of aesthetic of the listed buildings. And I know that some of them, like I think one of them fell over in the wind, like they've been in pretty bad condition, but it's just nice to see kind of that the heritage aspect of it being kept, but also having it in terms of like modernisation and making it a community asset. I think it's a really cool way of maintaining what we had, but also introducing kind of the new to it. So yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you for the update on it.
Yeah, it's a really, really tricky one because it is different. It is difficult to fund these things and to bring them forward, and unless you've got those end occupiers, and it's always a chicken and egg scenario. Can you get the end occupiers? Do you need to get them first to secure them? And there's all of that dynamic. I guess what you've got here in this case is you've got the fallback of a 106 agreement, which obliges us to refurb them to a certain specification, and so it is therefore logical that you would take them forward to a fully lettable state. And so I think the aspiration of this application that we're bringing forward and Sam's coordinating is, let's not just aim for the baseline. Let's actually try and make this a really, really good, vibrant asset, not only for our new customers and our new residents, but also just Faversham generally.
Great, thank you. I think
it was the West Crystallising House did fall over, yeah. So I mean, some of them are in a really, really bad state. Yeah. So we need to do something for sure. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hook? I think his hand maybe just left up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Are there any more questions? Public? No? Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. That's been fascinating, and I'm sure you're going to deliver Faversham a fantastic project, and can't wait to see it all complete.
Lovely. Thank you very much for having us again. We'll see you
thanks
soon.
everyone. Good to
Thank
see
you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Cheers. Thank you.
Right, I think we're ready to carry on. Are there any questions from the public at this stage? No. So this meeting will be recorded, and I think that's all I need to say at the moment. We could move to the agenda. Item 1, apologies and acceptance for reasons.
Apologies received from councillors Barker, Irwin and Saunders.
Thank you. 2, declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. Members who have an interest to declare must declare the existence and nature of it at the start of the meeting and act in accordance with the Council's Code of Conduct, S27 Localism Act 2011. Item 3, to receive and accept as a true record the minutes of the meeting on the 1st of February. Quite short minutes. Are there any? Councillor Perkin.
Can I propose that we accept those minutes, please?
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Martin. Thank you. To receive the planning schedule dated the 1st of February. Councillor Perkin.
Can I propose that we accept the planning schedule as well, please?
Thank you, and I would second that because I went through those. That's fine. So we're on to item 5 to consider applications on the 15th of February. Number 21500388 TCA 1 Queen Court Cottages, Mutton Lane, Ospringe, Conservation Area Notification, remove 2 branches leaning across Mutton Lane. Councillor Williams, would you like to comment on that?
Okay, yes, thank you.
2 branches.
Well, I don't think there's any issues here. I mean, Ospringe Parish Council proposed no objection, so I would suggest that we also propose no objection.
Thank you. I would second that. Councillor Perkin, yeah, are we all voting on that?
Yeah, I was just voting.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's done. 21500389 TCA Church House, Cypress Road, Conservation Area Notification to reduce canopy of 1 small eucalyptus tree to 2 metre in height and balance. Tree height will be 4.5 metre in height with a crown spread of 2 metre. Tree moves a considerable amount in high winds and rubs on fence line, also shades the neighbouring gardens. Councillor Williams, thank you.
Thank you. I would, eucalyptus, so we've had these sort of eucalyptus problems before where they do get quite big, and I think it's in quite a confined space, if I remember. I mean, I think you can see it from Whitstable Road. So I think we should propose no objection as well with this one.
Happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Perkin. Can we all vote? Thank you. 21500420 TCA 59 Water Lane, Ospringe, Conservation Area Notification, remove 1 fir tree as the roots have damaged the footpath. Councillor Williams, thank you.
Thank you. There wasn't a lot of really information on this. I mean, there was no images, but Ospringe Parish Council again have proposed no objection. My assumption is based that the local parish council, they haven't identified anything that's kind of untoward with it. So I think it's looking on Google, I think it is probably in a location that's quite difficult for the residents. So I think we shouldn't object. I think we should propose no objection as well.
Thank you. Councillor Martin?
Yeah, I'll second that, Madam Mayor. The look of it just seems to me that it's just being a sensible move.
Thank you. Can we all vote on that? Thank you. 21500506 TCA 14 Nightingale Road Conservation Area Notification. 1 ash fell, damage caused by tree roots and excessive shading. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. I'm a little bit torn with this one, because I can see that they've showed images of the base of the tree and the damage it's caused to the paving. My slight concern is that although it probably wasn't a tree that was planted, or at least hasn't been planted particularly well, it's quite a big tree for the centre of Faversham, and I'm concerned that with the fact that ash trees are becoming in decline, it's quite rare to see a tree like this, and I don't know whether the damage it's causing is significant enough for the tree to be removed. My initial feeling was that we should object or the felling of the tree, and the reasons being is that there's sufficient evidence in there to suggest that it's causing a major problem apart from the damage to the paving, which is something you can rectify. I think that's my feeling, and as I say, the concern about removing quite a large tree in an area of urban part of Faversham where there isn't actually that many trees. But please tell me if I'm being outrageous.
Thank you. Any comments? Anyone with comments? No? No? Would anyone like to second that proposal or add any comments to it? Councillor Martin?
Yeah, looking at that, I can see where they're sort of coming from on this. But I do agree with Councillor Williams. It does appear to be right on a boundary as well, looking at the photographs. Yes, I would be concerned if it was just a fell. I wonder whether there's, perhaps we could say we object unless the tree officer confirms that there's no other solution, because it does look to me like there may be pollarding or something else which could be done, which would restrict further lifting, although having seen the base, that is one of those sort of problems that occurs, but it appears that it's not a public footpath, it's just a path in the garden. So I think I will second Councillor Williams' objection.
Thank you. Are we all in agreement with that? Thank you. 2050-5598 full 61 Newton Road, Faversham, insertion of replacement double glazed timber sash bay window. Any comments? Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, can I ask a question of the Deputy Town Clerk, please? So this particular property, there's been a previous application for single glazed UPVC window, which went to appeal and was rejected on appeal. Do we know whether it's the same window and they're going back to replace it with a wooden sash window, or whether it's a separate one?
I didn't actually note the previous application, but I think it was the bay window. It's the same one, because it's only one of the small houses. I don't know if it's a different owner. And I think there was damage to that property, because I think it might have been hit by a road and it was held up on a prop, I think, at one point in the last year or two.
Okay. It's just, I'm fully supportive of them replacing the window as double glazed wooden sash windows, but I know that previously the reason why it was dismissed on appeal was because it was UPVC instead of timber. So it's welcome that it's come back as a timber sash window. And if it's the same window, I'm more than happy to propose that we support that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Martin?
Yeah, I was going to say it's nice to see that people are beginning to get the message that we do need to have timber rather than UPVC, and I'll second the support motion from Councillor Perkin.
Thank you. Could we all vote on that? Thank you. We're all in agreement there. 21500137 full 1 Kings Drive, Faversham. Erection of bench to the front of carport, retrospective. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I think we should object to this. The already this is a new development, but already we are getting complaints about parking problems. These carports were put in as part of the development's parking plan, and it seems bizarre in some ways that we are already getting planning applications to remove parking, and yet we are getting complaints about the way people are parking before the road network in that area is even being finished. It was a condition of the original planning applications to provide these carports and provide off-road parking, and I think we should object. I hate to say it, we open the floodgates if we don't.
Any other comments? Councillor Williams.
I would tend to agree with Councillor Martin. I mean, I don't know this development particularly well in terms of the details, but I share the feelings of the loss of parking. If that parking's been created for a purpose as part of, you know, to allow adequate parking, to then take it away as Councillor Martin said, it's kind of does set a precedence for this to happen again, and then you're going to have a serious problem at some point down the line. So, yeah, I'd happily second that proposal.
Thank you. Any other comments? Can we vote on that to object? Thank you.
Can I ask a question, please?
Oh yes, sorry, Councillor.
So the one that we're on at the moment is 1 Kings Drive, yeah?
Yes.
So I don't know if it's just me being confused, but is that not just for a fence? I understand it's retrospective, but is it not just for a fence rather than getting rid of parking spaces?
I think it's blocking the parking.
It is. It's blocking, whereas it was fenced 3 sides round, so it got protection on 3 sides, but they blocked right across the front now.
Okay, fine. Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. So are we all happy to vote object?
I can't raise my hand, but I agree.
Could raise the baby instead. Right. Thank you. And 21500182 full 1 Ashbury Close, Faversham. I think it's very similar. Retrospective application for alterations to existing carport to create storage area. And they've already done it. And clearly they have filled in the front, but left a walk-through and made storage area. Do you have any comments?
I think the same as Councillor. Oh, sorry. I think the same as Councillor Martin said. You know, these developments designed with a certain number of parking spaces in order to minimise problems. And people know that when they buy houses, and it's just unrealistic for people to expect that they can buy a house and very quickly get rid of the parking space. So I really do feel we have to object for the greater good of people parking their cars in their carports as they're intended to leave other spaces available for other people.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
I will second that, and I agree. You know, it's a it's just one of those where, you know, the development hasn't even been finished and people are removing parking spaces from it. And as I said, we are getting complaints already about parking on those roads in that area. So I think we've got to address.
Thank you. Could we all vote on that? Thank you. 21500272 St Anne's Cross Coach House, South Road, erection of a garden shed. Any comments? Councillor Williams.
Thank you.
It looks
so in terms of the because obviously this is quite a substantial house on South Road, and it looks like it's going to be kind of on the boundary, and the heritage statement, so within that, sort of suggests that the way it's going to be constructed isn't going to be seen or that visible, and should have little impact on the conservation area. I can't see any reasons to object myself, and that's my opinion, but unless anyone else thinks otherwise.
Any other comments? Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, I'm happy to second a no objection. I think that the description of the fact that you're not able to extend the coach house itself and to be able to use that for storage and stuff is a reasonable explanation. I know that's not like a planning consideration, but I think that I would totally second a no objection.
Thank you. Any other comments, or shall we vote on that? Thank you.
What do you want us to comment? No objection, this cannot be seen from external points, or yeah, okay.
Thank you. 21500285 full 6 Hatch Street to remove and replace 3 single glazed windows with double glazed windows of the same size and frame colour, and to remove and replace the door to the rear of the property. Any comments here? Councillor Perkin.
So this is around the corner from where I used to live, and there's lots of houses that are on the same kind of area that have had similar work at the rear of the building. So obviously it's within the conservation area, but there's quite a number of houses that have UPVC windows to the rear of the properties. So I mean, I would propose no objection, but I'm happy to hear otherwise if anyone's got any opinions on that.
I think they're just replacing aluminium frames with these ones. They're not replacing.
Okay, my apologies.
No, that's fine. So we can still go, yeah.
It says size and frame colour, doesn't it? It doesn't say material.
The pictures are of aluminium, old-fashioned opening out windows on these ones.
Thank you. I'm happy to still propose no objection. I think they're in keeping with the rest of the...
I do. Councillor Martin.
I'll second that, no objection.
Thank you. Can we all vote on that? No other comments on that? Thank you. And final application 21500313 full 28 Saxon Road. Demolition of existing attached outbuilding to rear and erection of a single storey rear extension. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. I would propose we do no objection. I think a number of houses down that road have done similar extensions, and in fact the next door neighbours, it's almost going to match what they've done, so it's not going to stick out any further. I think as well with these houses, they're not particularly large houses, and I think if it enables people to stay in their houses longer. I think it's quite important. So yeah, I think no objection, propose no objection. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. Just as a note, really, a lot of these houses, those extensions were originally outside WCs, and therefore it's just bringing things back in line with perhaps where they should be. So I'll second that proposal.
Yes. Any other comments? No? Can we all vote on that? Thank you. Well, that concludes. That's the final application this evening. So thank you, everyone, and our public that are in with us. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Later.